Hello everybody. As you know in my video where I changed to water cooling, because I'm going to wipe my other drive, I completely restarted my main hard drive because my computer was booting up in like 5 minutes, which is way too slow. So when I did that, I stupidly forgot to put any saves or any important files on a different hard drive, so I lost everything including the Kerbal Space Program series. So I've decided to restart just for y'all. I do have a save right now, but it already has a flag planted on Minmus, so I decided to, as I just said, start a new save for y'all. So with that, I'm going to start it on normal, which allows reverting, quick saving, and crew respawn for every 2 hours. So if you're wondering what SKP means, as you can read right here, it's a stupid Kerbal program. So it's because I'm terrible at this game. So with that, I'll be quiet for this intro and I will start. This video has 3 phases. In phase 1, we will launch our first vessel, we will go into a low Kerbin orbit, and then whenever we unlock electrics, we will put a satellite into orbit of Kerbin. And then in phase 2, we will land on Minmus, then we'll plant a flag on Minmus, and then put a satellite in orbit of Minmus. And then if this is feasible, I will build a base on Minmus. Then in phase 3, we will land on the Mun, we will plant a flag on the Mun, and put a satellite in orbit of the Mun. And again, if feasible, we'll build a base and put it on the Mun. So I'm going to do my first launch, but before that, I'm going to go into mission control and accept the collect scientific data from Kerbin and launch our first vessel for money and even more science. So, did you notice that while we're going 300 meters a second, this white stuff appears on the side of the craft? Well, that is aerodynamics. So, when you are going up, you are using Newton's third law, which states that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. So that is saying, when the gas is pushing the rocket up, the gravity is trying to push the rocket back down to the ground, which causes this white stuff on the side to appear at a certain speed, which is actually just air molecules moving themselves away from your rocket. So now that we've recovered our first vessel, we are going to build a new vessel that will take us out of the atmosphere, so that way we could get some science while we're outside of the atmosphere. must be getting really hot in there for Jeb. Well, let's learn about why he's heating up. So, the real thing is friction. Have you ever learned about friction? Yes? Well, if you haven't, it's there in your everyday life. Have you ever walked? There's friction there. Have you ever stopped a car with brakes, or have you stopped a bike with brakes? There's friction there too. And have you ever rubbed your hands together during cold weather to warm them up? There's friction there too. So, why is friction so important when we're entering the atmosphere? Well, that is because my ship begins to bump into air molecules at such a rapid rate that the air molecules do not have enough time to move out of the way, so they just bump into the ship and cause it to heat up at such a rapid rate that at some point during this whole mission, like phase 1, 2, and 3, we will have to use a heat shield, but right now I don't have that unlocked. So even though this attempt failed, we will still take it. That's why I didn't revert. I was thinking about it, but we would get a lot of science out of this, and we would still get some money from the Escape the Atmosphere mission. Here, you can see me adding more fuel to my swivel engine. The reason for that is quite simple. Delta V, or the shape you see on screen right now. The reason delta V is important is because this is the amount of speed that your engine will allow you to get before you run out of fuel. So let's say you're going 1,000 meters a second and you have 2,500 delta V. You will do 1,000 meters a second plus 2,500 delta V, or which in your case, however much delta V you have. So for this, you'll get 3,500 meters a second. But let's say you're going the opposite direction, which you'll do 2,500 minus 1,000, which would be 1,500 meters a second in the opposite direction. The reason you subtract the amount of delta V by your speed is because you're getting rid of that speed with your delta V, so because you're facing away from the original way you were going. And that is the most basic way I can explain this to people, and frankly, the only way I can explain this to myself. You know how I said that we needed a heat shield when entering the atmosphere? Well, now we have a heat shield. So here I achieved an orbit, but whenever I was explaining delta V and that recording after it, whenever I added that extra fuel tank, that was enough to get us into an orbit. But like I said, we need to go the opposite way and get rid of that orbit by losing some of our speed. So I have to revert now because I am out of delta V. So now that we're in orbit, we have to face retrograde in order for us to get back into Kerbin's atmosphere so that way we can be pulled back to the ground. So, now that we've done that, that's the end of Phase 1. I don't have electrics unlocked, so Phase 1's not complete, but like I said at the beginning, I will only put a satellite in orbit whenever I have electrics unlocked. So now, we're moving on to Phase 2. Just a reminder of what Phase 2 is. Phase 2 is land on Minmus, plant a flag on Minmus, and put a satellite in orbit of Minmus, and if feasible, build a base on Minmus. So I am switching to live commentary. Alright. So a high Kerbal orbit to me is at least 500,000. The burn time is in 14 seconds, so we go -14. So here I'm making the satellite for Kerbal, as you can see, and if you even can see that development process. There we go. And we do another one with 500. I have fully completed phase 1, so now we are fully on phase 2. Alright, with that, we have finished phase 2, and now we are into phase 3, which in my opinion is the hardest one, because I do not know how to land on the mud. Getting stuff around the mud. Do I have an aerodynamic cone? Not cone, no, aerodynamic thing, you know. Alright, we'll just launch. Cut the music real quick. Thank you. As a Kerbal YouTuber, attempt 11 seems bad for me. I did rage quit at the time, but did not realize there was a glitch. If you look at the gimbal, it was in the orange facing retrograde instead of the clips that show blue facing prograde. So, I rage quit from a glitch, and that whole ordeal about me failing with the clown music was because the game started up wrong. So, those attempts don't really count, but for the sake of this YouTube channel, we'll count them just to make me seem like I'm bad at Kerbal. Thank you for understanding. I made an entirely new satellite. It's the MK2. This one comes with a bit less features, but it comes with science, so I could gather science from planet or from place. So that's what I'm gonna put in orbit around the Mun, and I'll do that to the rest of the Muns, like Minmus and then Kerbal. That's what I'm talking about. I'll do that off camera. I'm going to speed up the orbit around Kerbal and the transfer to the Mun until I am in a good orbit around the Mun. I have made a few minor changes, as you could tell. almost perfect circulatory orbit around the Mun. That's not bad. 2,791 meters a second of delta V. I'll take that. So I have some fuel. I'm not going to detach because I can still get back to Kerbal with this, and I can, if I ever need to deorbit it, I don't need it anymore. I could possibly survive a crash into it. But other than that, I take that. I'm trying to get the surface scanner to work, but at some point I give up because I don't want to get too close to the surface because I could possibly crash by accident.